So this is the time of year when us homeschool moms are really looking at what went well this year and what we're going to want to change next year as far as curriculum goes. So let's take a look at what is the best of the best. If you're new here, I'm Rian, a Christ-following wife and a homeschool mom to 3 boys. Here we talk all things homeschool, and we will learn together how to use our roles as wife, mom, teacher, and homemaker in order to glorify God. So this year I wanted to host this collaboration to just kind of compile a list of what we homeschool moms who have been homeschooling for a while consider the best of the best curriculum out there. Now, this is not necessarily what we're using this year because we all know that sometimes we can't always use what we consider the best curriculum because different kids have different needs, different seasons call for different things in your life, you know, different time commitments and things like that. So this is just, okay, in a perfect year, what would I pick for each curriculum? What do I consider just my favorite for each subject? And I invited about 8, 9 other mamas to join me. I don't know, this should be a playlist of about 10 moms. But these are homeschoolers who have been doing it for a little while and who, I tried to pick people who just all have different styles. I didn't want all people who are just like me because that would be a really boring playlist. Because just because I say something is the best of the best doesn't mean it actually is. But hopefully this will give you an idea of, okay, well, if you are more of, you know, a Charlotte Mason-y type person, this might be the best of the best for you. Or if you're more of a traditional homeschooler, this might be the best of the best for you. If you have a kiddo with special needs, this might work for you. So hopefully you can just check out the playlist and just get kind of a master list of what we consider the best. Okay, we're gonna start with the easy ones first. Science. I have only ever done one science. I take that back. We did something different in kindergarten, but it was kindergarten, so you're just kind of having fun. But I've only ever used one real science curriculum, and that is Apologia, and I don't know that I'll ever change. I love it. It is written from a biblical worldview, and so you never have to worry about, oh, are they going to talk about us being related to monkeys? And actually, we just did land animals this year, and like they talked about how we are not like monkeys. It showed you, you know, why is it that, you know, this and this are kind of similar between humans and monkeys, but why aren't we actually related? They have all these creation confirmations, which just talks about how you see God in science and how science backs God and God backs science. They really do go hand in hand. And I love it because it is a textbook, but there's tons of pictures and it's written conversationally. And so we love to listen to, I always download the MP3s every year and I put them on my computer and we love to listen to them over lunch or breakfast. And then they have these great learning notebooks where you can do crosswords and you can do, you know, different review questions. You can do books, like little booklets. You can do all these different activities. You can do all of them or some of them or whatever, copy work. There's so much in there to just reiterate and help them kind of narrate what they have learned back to you, whether it's through writing or pictures or whatever. And the stuff just sticks. And there's a lot of experiments in there that are mostly pretty easy things that you can do on your own, or if you can get a group of friends together to do them, that's even better. But we are Apologia lovers 100%. And then another easy one for us is math. And if you followed me anytime at all, you know exactly what I'm gonna say. I am the oddball out and I am a Saxon lover. I know most people are not that. But if you are in a math rut and you are just like, or maybe you've just written Saxon off because you've just heard people say how terrible it is, I would challenge you just to give it a look. Now, if your math is working well for you, don't go look at Saxon, okay? Like, I feel like homeschool is very much one of those, if it's not broke, don't fix it type of things. If it's working for your kiddo and they're learning, just let it be. But at least give Saxon a try if you're on the look for math. This is not an exciting math curriculum. I'm not even gonna pretend that it is. However, in kindergarten through 3rd grade, there are a lot of manipulatives. You do get to do a lot of hands-on things. So it is a little more exciting then, but it's still the book itself, very literally black and white. There is no color. It is from kindergarten through 3rd grade. It is scripted. So it's easy to teach. It is not hard. They tell you exactly what to do and say. You don't have to have any previous knowledge, but it is rigorous. It is, there's a lot of work to be done. However, if you're like me, you can alter that. You know, in those younger grades, you can say, okay, you only have to do the front of the worksheet. You don't have to do front and back. So in those older grades, you may just say, okay, you only have to do the even problems or the odd problems or whatever. You can adapt it to where it's not going to take you all day, but it is a good curriculum. It's spiral approach. So you're going to learn something and then you're going to come back to it a couple days later, and you're going to come back to it a few days later after that. And it, you know, just builds on itself, and it's thorough. I know my kids know what they know. It's not a guess as to, did that really stick or not? Like, it's very obvious if it stuck or not. History, I'm gonna kind of cheat because I have 2 favorite history curriculum. That being said, I've only ever tried 2. See, I'm a if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of girl, because I thoroughly believe that, yes, we have the freedom to change up our curriculum whenever we need to. But I also feel like sometimes we just like hear about the next new thing. We just want to try it. And then we try a little of this, little of that, little of this, little of that. And then we're like, what do our kids actually know? Like, what did they pick up? And not that they don't pick up things, but we're like, I'm not really sure what they got out of this and what they got out of that, you know? And so I don't know, I've only ever tried 2, but I love them both. But they're both very different. So the first one I'm going to share with you is what we are currently using, which is Sunlight. And that is literature based. So it's more of a Charlotte Mason-ish approach. It's not full on Charlotte Mason, but we do a lot of reading. We look at a lot of books that have great pictures, and we ask a lot of questions. We have a lot of discussions. We do some memory work in there for geography and for Bible memory. So it's history, Bible, and literature all in one. There's some great read alouds in there, like great read alouds. We talk about different missionaries and just different regions of the world, different time eras. It's just super rich, and it's what my kids ask to do first every single day. So, you know, that speaks volumes when the kids are like excited to do it every day. However, if you're looking for something a little more pared down and like you have one solid book that you're reading from, I would choose Story of the World. This comes in 4 volumes if you've never looked at it before. And it goes in cycles. You can do the cycles over again and just go a little deeper the second time around. And this comes with a text booklet, so you can give tests, you can give them questions, you can give them activities, you can read extra books, you can watch extra videos. I mean, they give you the text and then they give you a whole slew of ideas, and you can go as minimal. There's been years when we literally just listened to the book and did very little apart from that. And there have been years where we did the activities and the cooking and the dress up and the extra books and the watching the movie. We did the whole shebang, but it's very adaptable. So they're kind of similar, but they're not really, but I love them both. So language arts is a little bit different because a lot of this stuff I'm not actually currently using, but like I said, different seasons call for different things, and this just wasn't gonna work for us this year, but it is solid. So for language arts, for phonics, this will, unless something changes dramatically, I will always use Ordinary Parent's Guide to Teaching Reading when it comes to teaching my kiddos how to read. It just works. Again, it is not colorful. It is not fancy. There's not a million different pieces. There's no workbook. There's nothing. My beef with a lot of phonics curriculum is that they include a lot of workbooks or a lot of work pages. And the act of learning to read is very separate than learning to write. Those are 2 very separate skills, and they're both rather difficult skills to master. And so why muddle the 2? My kindergartner, or my oldest, when he was a kindergartner, we made the mistake of using a curriculum that was heavy in workbook stuff. And I mean, he learned to read, but it was very frustrating for both of us. And I didn't realize until the end of that year what the problem actually was. I didn't understand that you have to separate those into 2 separate things. You can't try to teach those 2 very hard concepts all at once. So Ordinary Parent's Guide to Teaching Reading, it is scripted. The lessons are short so that no one gets frustrated. And they tell you, it's a big fat book, and they tell you, you know, start it around this time, and then just use it until they've mastered it. And it could take a year, it could take 2 or 3 years. You don't know. It just depends on your kiddo, but they're like, if they don't understand this concept, just visit it again tomorrow, and eventually they'll get it. And that's exactly how it worked for both my oldest and my second born, because my oldest, after we used that junk curriculum. I did go back and reteach him with Ordinary Parents Guide. We just went through it a little faster since he was already kind of reading, and it just made him like a great reader. And then it's all I used for my second child, and he's a fantastic reader too. Now, as far as grammar, this is from the same company. It's the Well-Trained Mind Company's first language lessons. We used this level 1 through 4, and it again is very scripted. They work a lot on memory, like memorizing the prepositions and things like that. And then you do learn how to diagram sentences pretty early on, and it's just straightforward. Maybe that's what I should name this video, is just straightforward curriculum, because that's what I am. I'm not a fluff person. I just like teach the thing and let them know the thing, and then we'll do the fun stuff. We'll get to the fun stuff. Your math and your language arts, I'm like, let's just get to it already. Just teach the thing. And then for writing, I'm gonna cheat a little bit again. Also with those others is Writing with Ease by the same company. And this is very, very rich. You read rich literature, you narrate back. In the younger years, that is just kind of a guided thing. The parent would ask a question and then the child would answer. As they get older, they're verbally, narrating it. And then that morphs into, I'm verbally narrating it to the teacher's writing it down, to now I'm going to narrate it and write it down, because again, narrating, telling story, and writing story, again, two different skills. And I love how Writing with Ease really breaks that apart. However, we did not use that this year because I did not have time for an in-depth curriculum. And really, after Writing with Ease 4, my son was not ready for their next program. And they say in there that a lot of kiddos won't be ready for the next program, which was kind of frustrating to me, because I'm like, well, then what do we do? But it ended up being a year where I needed him to be a little more self-sufficient anyway. So we used another curriculum, which I'm also going to recommend, which was Essentials in Writing. Not to be confused with IEW, this is EIW, but it is a video-based program. I don't know if all of them are. I think they are, at least the ones that I looked at were. And we spent the first half of the year in grammar, and the second half of the year was more writing. My son loves it because he can do it himself. Like, he can just take charge. I just grade his stuff. And they give you a little bit of room for creativity, but they also want you to, kind of mimic some of the greats. And so they don't do that as well as Writing with Ease, but typically when they have you, a lot of their like copywork sentences and stuff will be good literature sentences, okay? And so I do wish it had a little more of that rich literature that Writing with Ease does, but by and large, it worked for my son and it was easy. So if you're looking for a DVD-based curriculum, or I think they have it on streaming too, that's definitely one I would check out. And then lastly, if you do any sort of memory work, I highly recommend Claritas Publishing. It goes in cycles, very much like Classical Conversations memory work does. If you are familiar with that, it is very similar to their setup, but you don't have to be a part of a CC group. So for the first couple years that I homeschooled, I did CC's memory work, but I was not part of a CC community. And that made it very hard because there's certain songs and stuff that they don't allow access to unless you are a member. And so I was like making up some of the songs and stuff like that, and that just got really difficult. And so I'm like, why does no one have this? It's not CC. Well, they do. It's called Claritas Publishing. And so if you want some memory work that has CDs with it, so you don't have to make up your songs or anything like that, I highly recommend Claritas Publishing. It goes in a cycle just like CC's does. There's 4 cycles. And there's, Latin and grammar and math, history sentences. I mean, you go through hymns. There's just a bunch in there and it's really good. And then as far as our Bible stuff, I just recently did a video on that, and I will link it in a card up above and in the description down below if you want to check that out. As far as what we love to use to teach Bible in our homeschool, I would say my #1 resource, aside from just digesting God's word with your kids, is the Apologia's Who is God series. It's more of an apologetic series, but it does a really good job at just knowing what do we believe and why do we believe that and where do we find that in scripture and how does that apply to our lives. So if you're looking for something like that, I highly, highly recommend that. And it's set up just like their science is. So hopefully this list just kind of got your wheels turning on curriculum that you may not have thought of before, or maybe you're just like, I don't even know where to start. And maybe this list will just give you an idea of some of the good ones that are out there. And so please let me know down below, do you love any of these same ones, or are there some that you'd never heard of before? And thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to check out the playlist, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.